Okay. Hello. This is the very first demo here for your typographic word drawing. If you hadn't started it or if you were absent, what you need to do is, open up Illustrator. Okay, get that loaded up, and then hop on to Schoology here and go to our typography folder, to the typography project where we're making that word drawing, and then into this demos folder, okay? This demo is located underneath this folder. Hopefully you know that because you're watching it right now. But it's in the warping and distorting text folder here, okay? What you need is to download this example. That is what was on my screen here, that little Kirby example. Download that. I'm gonna have you submit the different changes you make to Kirby here, just so I can see that you understand, that you followed along with the demo, and that video will be posted on here too, okay? So get that Kirby downloaded and then open it up here in Illustrator once you have Illustrator open. I'm gonna show you 3 different ways where you can kind of distort and warp text. The first way I show you is probably going to be your favorite way, and the way that you probably will most frequently distort text. It's how I did Kirby's arm. Try to do his feet here. I will say that you have to go in and kind of do minor adjustments, but for the most part, this first way that I show you does a pretty stinking good job at filling in shapes there. So what you want to do is start outlining objects, breaking up your image into shapes. So you can see I've already done that here with Kirby. I have his mouth kind of outlined into simple shapes, his arm, his foot. This guy here was a shape. I broke his arm into 2 shapes. You can outline it all at once if you want to, or you could work in sections, okay? I like working in sections, and I label different sections over here in my layers. If you forget how to open a new layer, you come down here to the little plus, square with a plus. Let's create a new layer. Click on it, opens up a new layer. You can name that layer whatever you need to name it. We'll do bottom. We'll do foot. Left foot. I already have a left foot. Yeah, I do. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that out and just keep my normal left foot. Okay. Boom. So if I click on this circle over here, you can see that it shows me, it shows the path of what is in that layer. This is also in that layer. I could delete that out. Go away. There we go. This guy should also be in that layer. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this piece out. I'm gonna zoom in. If you still have that top foot portion and you're like, how can I separate this? How can I pull this apart? What you can do is you can click, oh, it's locked. Click on a path. I'll click on his mouth here. I want to separate these 2 pieces. I can right click on it and ungroup it. Right now it says they're ungrouped. I can group. We're going to group all these together. That's how they originally were. Grouped. Right click and ungroup. Okay. As you start outlining different parts of whatever your subject is, you'll notice that some of them don't break up into shapes here. I will show you what I mean. Let me go ahead and move this back. I'm going to delete out his mouthpieces. On my mouth layer, I'm going to go ahead and lock all of these other ones. What you want to use probably is this curvature tool over here in your toolbar. It's the little pin with the squiggly. Click on that. I'm going to go back into my properties panel here. I don't want the fill on, which would fill in a color and the shape that you make. I just want the stroke on. My stroke is blue here. I made it blue so you could see it pretty easily against Kirby. And then I've also amped up how big my stroke is. Okay, I have about 4 points. Anywhere between 1 and 5 would probably be sufficient for you. I'm gonna go ahead and break his tongue up into some shapes here. I'm gonna click, click, click. And if you remember this tool, or if you've never used this tool before, then you'll see that wherever I lay an anchor point is where the tool wants to curve around. That is like the peak arch of that curve. So every time I drop an anchor point, I'm telling Illustrator, this is where I want you to start to curve, okay? If I come to an area where I need to make a sharp angle, I'm just gonna double click when I lay that anchor point. And then I'm telling Illustrator, I want this to be a sharp point, okay? Give it a little corner. So up here, I want a corner. I'm gonna double click on that, boom, corner. I'm gonna add in a point there. I want to go ahead and break up his tongue here into a couple different segments, maybe two. Yeah, I think I could do. Yeah, we'll do two for this. I'm just gonna split it right in half. If I wanted to split it more, I could, but for the demo, we'll just do two. You can see that Illustrator wants me to end this path. Usually you'd want to take it back over to where you started and click that anchor point. I just want this curved line, so I'm just going to hit Escape, ESC on my keyboard, and then it ends that path there. I'm going to switch back over to my black arrow, and I'm going to select this middle line. I'm going to hold Shift on my keyboard. I'm still holding Shift, and click on the mouth. I could also click and drag to get both of them, but I can also hold Shift and click on everything that I want. Have them both selected. I'm going to go to the Shape Builder tool over here. So those two little overlapping circles, ellipses with the cursor on it. If you remember this tool, or if it's your first time using this tool, remember you can fill in color. You can come over here and hit fill, and then click in a color. We can also click and drag a line and it connects the shape, right? So we have one big shape here. Control Z for undo. I want to get rid of these little pieces here, so I can hit Alt on my keyboard and it turns it in to a little deletion tool. If you don't want to delete out a line, if you're working in sections like this, you don't necessarily need to come over and delete any of that. We can go ahead and do that with the Pathfinder, which is what's going to split these line segment and this shape into two separate shapes. So right now it's reading it as two different paths and we want to make them two different shapes here. So I'm going to select both of them, go to Window. You're going to want to click on your Pathfinder. Mine's already on, and this little guy will open up, okay? You want everything that you're getting ready to work on or break up into shapes selected. So I have them selected here, and I'm going to hit this first bottom left-hand button. If you hover over it, it says divide. Click on it, and you can see it took out the edge of that line I made, and it has divided this into two separate shapes. Right now they're still connected, so I need to right-click on it and hit ungroup. You might have to do it again. Sometimes it doesn't do it the first time. Did it. Okay. So now we have two separate shapes. Oops. In isolation mode. What you want to do is type out your text that you're wanting to fill into that shape. And then we're going to kind of merge the text into the shape. I'll show you here. So go over to your type tool, lay out your text, whatever you want it to be. When you lay out your text, that lorem ipsum dolor bunch of crap pops up. Just hit backspace immediately when you lay it because it's already highlighted. So that way you don't have to go through and individually, manually delete all of it out. Just quickly backspace, okay? I'm going to put the word hungry in his mouth here. Kirby is a black hole and likes to eat everything, right? I'm going to highlight this. If you want to download a font, download a font. My suggestion is that when you start filling things in, see what font is working best. The thicker ones do a better job at filling in those spaces, okay? So keep that in mind as you pick a font. That one's pretty big. That one's also pretty big. And if you start filling in shapes and you're like, I really don't like this font, don't keep going with it, okay? Change it up. Try this one. Gonna make it a little bit bigger here so I can see what I'm working with. Pull this out. There you go. It's not super necessary that I go in and place this text right over that shape. It could be over here. As long as you have them both selected, it'll be fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the bottom of his tongue here. We need to put the shape we're wanting the word to fill above the word, okay? So if I go into my layers here, you can see that my shapes are below that word. I want the shape to be above that word. You don't have to come over here and manually move it. I can have that shape selected, hit arrange, and then hit bring to front, and it sends it to the front automatically, okay? So we want that to be on top of our text. If it's not, this won't work. After you get it on top, you're gonna hit shift, also grab your word. So the word is selected and the shape is selected. Now we're gonna go to object, envelope distort, and make with top object. Okay, that is why we wanted the shape to be the top object over here. Boom. You can see that it's filled it in. It filled it in pretty well. Not too bad at all. The bottom it gets a little bit wonky, especially right here. When you go to fill in text, think about a ground plane. How do you want that word to sit? So this one, my ground plane kind of curves up. Still pretty smooth, a good line for it to line up on, but it's not always that way, okay? Like up here, this curved up and it kind of makes things look really wonky. If you're trying to fill in a shape and you're like, what the heck is happening? Try to give it a level ground plane. So I could do the word feets over here, but it would fit better. Oops, that's locked. It would fit better if I were to rotate this and put my word upside down and have this side of it be the ground plane. Think about where your text is resting. If you need to kind of twist something, like I could twist this foot here and give it that flat edge, you have the freedom to do that. If this wasn't so flat, let's say that this was turned like this, I would want to pull it out and turn it to give my text some sort of little area to rest on, okay? The flatter it is, the better it will be. I'm going to show you how to do it one more time. Text, shape, the word hungry. Gonna move this to the front, bring to front. Select the text and the shape, go to object, envelope distort, make with top object. Boom. Put that back up in here. It does a pretty good job at filling it in, but every once in a while, you're going to want to do a little bit of tweaking. So you want to make your text shapes, okay? We want to ungroup them and edit them individually as if they were shapes that we had made and no longer text. So with it selected, you can go into object, hit expand, have both of these guys checked here, hit OK. Now you can see the path is going around every single outline of the letters. So we have shapes now instead of text. We want to ungroup them, so I'm going to right click and hit ungroup. Didn't do it. I'm going to right click again, hit ungroup. There we go. So now you can see that I have every individual letter where I can manipulate them as needed. Okay. When you are manipulating things, make sure you are looking. Maybe there should be more space between this G and this G, right? Over here, we have a good amount of space, but some of these letters, like this R, gets really close to that R. We want the letting of that be a little bit better. So what I can do is I can click on this R. I'm like, oh, I really want to move this point. I'm going to go over to this white arrow, and I can grab a point, and I can move it. Woohoo! Okay. I can select multiple points at once. Oops, didn't mean to click off that. So I can select that bottom one. I'm holding shift, clicking another, holding shift, clicking another. And then I can use the keys on my keyboard. I can hit the up key and it starts to shift that up. I can shift it over, bring it back one. Maybe I just want to move this point now. Bring that down a little bit. Grab this one, bring that up a little bit. And then you have these little itty bitty, they're called handles. You can see this handle right here. And you can kind of toggle them to move other things around. Move that around a little bit, flatten that out, pull that guy up. See what it's looking like better. So I've created a little bit more space between here. I could move my G up if I wanted to. You could also move, I could move the edge of this Y out to where I feel like it's filling more of that tongue. Zoom in, switch back over, start grabbing some of these points. I'm holding shift, clicking, clicking, clicking. It is hard to see handles versus anchor points. Anchor points are square, handles are round. I know they're itty bitty tiny. So do your best. The closer you zoom in, the easier it will be to kind of see what the heck you're doing. Okay. Back out. Boom. And I could fix that up a little bit more if I wanted to, but you get the idea there. This is probably the main way you're going to want to go through and fill different parts of your image in, is with this envelope distort. Okay. Other option is there are actual just physical warping options. That's what I did up here. So if we zoom in, I go and type out my text. I want it to say num. Make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Oops. No. Okay. To do this, you have actual like type options that you can use, right? Switch back over to my black arrow here, select that text. I'm gonna go into the effect tab up here. And we're gonna go down to warp, and there's a lot of different warping options. Play around, see which is working best. You can also look some of them up. Flag is kind of wavy, like a flag. Wave is also a little bit wavy. Fish kind of bulges it out, same with the bulge. Arc and arch are similar. Twist, actually physically twist your text. I don't know if anyone's gonna want to use that. Look some of them up or test them out if you're like, I wonder what this does. Most of them are what they sound like, okay? We are going to use arch because I want to create an arch. Click on that. You can see the preview of it. If you cannot, go over here and check preview. And I can switch through other ones while I'm in here, right? Bulge, flag, fisheye, all the fun stuff. You can tell it how much you want it to bend. You have an easier time if you have it lined up against one of these edges to kind of figure out how much you should bend it. Hit OK. You'll notice that when you start to turn it though, it kind of messes everything up, doesn't hold it into place. To do that, we need to expand it again. I'm gonna go to object and then expand appearance. And now you should be able to rotate it without that weird thing happening. And then you can put it wherever you need to put it. Obviously, I would need to have a bigger arch for his arm, right? It's a much higher arch than the side of him. Put it down. And this one's probably too arched up, as you can see. But that is also an option there, okay? Last thing you could do, which is probably not one many of you will do unless you're trying to individually mess with one letter. Let's say, nah, I won't do it for that. I'll just type out. Let's say I wanted to mess with the K or the whole word Kirby. Type it out. I go back to my black arrow, select it. I'm gonna go to effect. And then I'm gonna go to distort and transform here. There are a couple different options in here. Again, you can kind of pick and choose to see what the heck happens. These are also kind of weird. Free distort is one that people will use from time to time, which allows you to kind of like pull these corners as needed. Good for more like flat geometric areas. Good for one letter too, like if I needed to just mess with the Y and kind of warp it and then save it, move it where I need to move it. So you can see that transformation happens up here. Those are the three main ways that I suggest warping text for the project. Yes, there are other ways out there. You are more than welcome to look some stuff up if you feel like none of this is working. But for the most part, the envelope distort with a thicker text is going to be your buddy for this, okay? Please let me know if you have questions when you get going on this and start working. I am very excited to see these. If you are absent during the texture steel, watch that next video too, okay?